And I can't remember the exact age of what I was, but I was rubbing her hands one day, and I was comparing her hands to my hands. And so I'm rubbing them, and I go, Grandma. And this was half joking. I had tonal quality in my voice that was a half joke there, and I said, Grandma, why are your hands so fat? Like that. And as I'm rubbing her hands, and without missing the beat, my grandmother didn't even look at me. She goes, oh boy, that's from picking cotton. And I sat there and I'm like, from picking cotton? And she must have picked up on the tone, and she looked at me and she saw, and she goes, boy, you ever seen a cotton plant? And that's the quality that was in her throat. And I'm like, no. She takes her other hand and she does her hands like this, and she goes, them damn cotton plants got a burr in them, and they got burrs in them like that. And she goes, I started walking up and down them rows when I was 4 years old. And she said, as you walk up and down the rows, you put your hands in them, cotton plants rip your hands up. And so when they rip your hands up, their hands bleed. And there's this tonal quality she's having in her throat. Now, I don't know what that is, but I know it's something I need to pay attention to. So I'm looking at her. Good morning. Today, I want us to become more resilient. Last Sunday, we talked about how we become more resilient by making sure that we have more doors than walls, that we work with the larger community. And this Sunday is about finding greater resilience around something we all have, a body. And it's important. Some trigger warnings here. I'm going to talk about some things that might be happening in Minneapolis and around our country right now. It's important as we start to fall into an authoritarian state that loves to smash bones and blow holes in faces and chests and send bodies away in prisons in foreign countries without any regard to due process of our Constitution. We should learn to become resilient in our bodies. This reading today is taken from an interview with Resma Manekem by Krista Tippett, the former NPR radio show called On Being. Manekem is a somatic therapist who specialized in healing the trauma of PTSD survivors. I've been all over the world and helped people who survived the wars in Afghanistan and so on and so forth. The basic scientific premise of somatic therapy is this: traumatic experience, or as they call soul pain, is carried in our bodies and is expressed, held, and healed in our gut instinct, sometimes called the soul nerve, or more technically, the vagus nerve. It winds its way through our body and our guts, through the crown of our head. Now, trauma can be passed down in our DNA and parenting patterns, generation after generation. Trauma can shorten lifespans considerably, create blockages in people's understanding. It can make life very difficult. And it is something that is often not even registered on an intellectual or emotional level. But back in our lizard brain, the part of our brains that can only really process hunger or need or fight or flight. And on top of this, if you look into Manekem's thought, somewhere in the late 1600s, after 1,000 years of the horror of the Dark Ages and the Middle Ages, with racks and pikes with heads on them and burning at stakes, the concept of whiteness was invented to allow for the continued brutalization of white bodies by the wealthy in a way that would keep them siding with their oppressors by pitting them against black and brown-skinned bodies. Just take a moment for that to settle in. It's a lot, I know. It's divide and conquer. It's the ultimate gaslighting of the narcissist. It's a lie that goes on with lies upon lies until the lies seem like it is as true as the law of gravity. But it is not real. It does not heal. It only inflicts pain and can continue to be monetized by consumer fetishism and the continual search of cheap labor across this planet. And all of this happens not in the world of ideas that can be debated, but all on the level of gut instinct. On a level that can very rarely be reasoned with. All this trauma and soul pain. But oppressors keep on getting voted to power. I'm sure you've seen the cartoon somewhere, maybe on Facebook. An oligarch sits in front on the head of a table with this giant pile of cookies in front of him. And then there's a white worker in a construction hat sitting on the other side of the table. And the construction worker has like 2 or 3 cookies. And the oligarch says to the white construction worker, pointing to the brown-skinned immigrant on the other side, "Be careful, that guy's coming after your cookies." But healing can happen. There are ways of developing resilience and this soul nerve, and this vagus nerve, and this gut instinct. In that reading, which I should have practiced more, I'm sorry, but maybe you could hear the grandmother's voice constrict when she's talking about picking cotton as a 4-year-old. How it's ripping up her hands. And we felt that constriction in our bodies. As that vagus nerve starts to resonate with our vagus nerve, and we feel that tension. We feel how that is that this grandson's ears pick up the tension in his grandmother's voice, and we can relate. Trauma can be a bridge of empathy. Let's do a little exercise together. What? No groans? I didn't say grounding exercise, because I'm going to go beyond that. I've mashed a few of Manekem's exercises together to bring to light some of the important work of his book, My Grandmother's Hands. It may or may not be helpful. It may not be equally as helpful to all of us. We're just going to explore this together a little bit, okay? All right. As I sound this bowl, I'm going to invite you to connect with your breath and just settle a little bit, okay? Just settle in the breath. If you get distracted by a noise, a thought, idea, just return gently, ever so gently, back to the breath. Your thoughts come and go like clouds across the blue sky. This awareness is like the sky. Grounded in the breath, turn some gentle curiosity to your body, to places that you might be holding tension. Maybe it's your throat. Maybe it's your shoulder. Maybe it's your heart region. Maybe down deeper in the gut. Be present to that. And I invite you to put your hand where you feel that feeling. In this place, where there's probably some DNA involved, just welcome the ancestor, or the ancestors. Don't try to name them, but just let them come in, be there. Do they empathize with you? Did they feel that tension? When was it that these ancestors first found out this concept of whiteness? What did it do to them? How did it shape them? What is this constriction? How long has it been here? Return to the breath. Clouds pass before a sky. Can you let this tension go? What did you experience? Gretchen.
Very close to my maternal grandmother. And she used to take me to Boston, even though it was her family's basement. And she had a running disagreement with the funding, the building, in view of the bar. So one day she took me up there and she was straightening out her bills. And there was a black elevator operator. It didn't quite please her. And so she got angry and left. And the upshot of the story is that a couple months later, she took me to see her raisin new son. So she went through this whole process of seeing people of different color as not other, but as like her.
So Gretchen, for those of you who are on Zoom, Gretchen shares an experience with her grandmother taking her shopping and having a negative reaction to an African American elevator operator. But then a couple months later, taking her to see Raisin in the Sun, which dealt with the issue of racial injustice. I haven't seen Raisin in the Sun, but I'm guessing that's what that dealt with. Yeah. Anybody else? Yeah, Bertha. Sadness. You felt some sadness.
I was thinking about my parents, and my mother had chronic depression, and my father had chronic back pain. And they lived with that all of their lives. And that just made me sad.
Your Bertha Young talks about the sadness that she felt of her mother's chronic depression and her father's chronic back pain.
Mine was not about the color of skin, but where you're from, in immigrating to the United States. I'm thinking of my great grandparents from Italy who came here not speaking English and raising a family in Manekem.
Yeah. So the thought of the Italian immigrants, yeah, Italian, speaking no English, coming to Mattapan,
And they're not treated well because they're immigrants.
and not being treated well because they're immigrants. Yeah. Mark.
So I've had some degree of lower back pain for most of my adult life. And just thinking about it now, I thought of my grandfather and my mother's father, who I only knew as a little kid, as a sort of old man who would take my brother and I paragon parks. But I know from stories he was sort of lived most of his life as a very bitter and angry man, also an Italian immigrant.
a constriction in my chest. I felt it right in my heart area. And I guess what came to me was my great-grandfather, who had come from Northern Ireland as a Protestant Irish person who got a job at the estate of a wealthy person right outside of New York City, and was dismissed because he witnessed an affair that the woman of the estate was having with her driver. And he was then put into an asylum. And it created a lot of suffering. And my grandmother, who and my brother had fallen in love and was thinking of marrying a African American, told him that she would not attend the wedding because she disapproved. And thinking of that passed down racism, somehow trying to make up for that pain. What this exercise does here is the process of waking up. American Zen masters like Joko Beck call this waking up to your authentic life instead of the substitute life most of us live. The substitute life is sort of a reflexive reaction to our core beliefs that are shaped early in our lives, usually having something to do with inherent vulnerability of being a defenseless human child. It's only when you sit with the raw feelings of these core beliefs and all of its painfulness, wrapped up usually as they are with feelings of loss and pain and shame and desperation, do we start to be able to let go of our attachments and stop being a puppet to them. The influential mystic Thomas Keating called this substitute life we live in reaction to our radical vulnerability an emotional program for happiness. Everybody has them. Now, I have several emotional programs. I'm sure you have some too when you think about it. One of my programs is being sagacious. Another is being adventurous. Another is being nice. Of course, I can also be misinformed and idiotic. I can be stuck in a rut and do all the same things over and over and over again. And sometimes I'm really not nice at all. I'm kind of a misanthrope. But when I'm nice, adventurous, or sagacious, well, then I gain some control of my radical vulnerability. Oh, also, I'm white. Another emotional program for happiness. But as we see here together, maybe just a glimpse of it, none of this has anything to do with the reality of what we are. Well, we see now our great work before us. We have to heal our trauma together, develop resiliency around it. And when we are safe and settled, we got to have conversations with all those MAGA folks out there. Invite them into healing therapeutic spaces too. One conversation at a time, one guided sit. I know it's a tall order, but it can be done as long as we know what the reality is that we're dealing with here. forces beyond reason, tied deeply into the trauma that our bodies experience. And yes, let's not forget about those midterms either, because that will be an important thing to work on as well. Well, it's a lot here. I'm sorry to throw so much at you on a Sunday morning. I wish you peace and wholeness as we together develop greater resiliency to face the challenging times that we are in. Blessed be.